Hey there, my name is Cole Adams, and you are watching the best college basketball podcast out there that covers the entire sport of college basketball, brackets, bubbles, and bid stealers. Now, here are your hosts, Sam Fetterman and Jonathan Lidskin.
Season 6, episode 87 of Brackets, Bubbles, and Bid Stealers. I am Sam Fetterman. That is Jonathan Lidskin. Jonathan, how are you doing this afternoon?
Great, Sam. Excited to talk, maybe the biggest weekend of the year to this point. Only so many of these Saturdays left, so got to enjoy them while we can.
We are joined by Will Warren from Basket Under Review. Many of you will know him as Stats by Will. Will, welcome back.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Happy to be here, boys. Good to see you all again. Yeah, it feels like week 16 of the NFL season feels, where it's like I'm getting really sad that I'm about to lose Sunday ticket for the off season.
Mm-hmm.
It's just I'm gonna miss the Saturdays being part of the routine. The NCAA tournament obviously rules. I mean, we all know that, but losing the pattern of waking up, getting my stuff done early Saturday, and this settling in from like 12 to 12, basically.
Yeah,
gonna miss it. Yeah. It sucks, like being in the off season, and then you're like, well, now I gotta I don't know, I don't really want to check in on the Predators. Like, I gotta remember the NBA exists, which is cool. Like, I don't know. Yeah, it's like losing like a friend for a few months. You're just like, I need this friend to get back from their study abroad.
Yeah. It's my second to last Saturday doubleheader of the season. Because 2 weeks from tomorrow, I'm going to be at the MAC tournament in Atlantic City. So obviously this week I've got Fordham and then I've got NJIT. So some exciting games in New York, but obviously not the most exciting games that we're going to have this week. That is obviously Bowling Green in Miami, Ohio, where Jonathan will be waving every Bowling.
Do I have to leave for this segment?
But let's break down Michigan Duke. That's where we're going to start in Washington, D.C. Number 1 versus number 2 in KenPom. 90.6 thrill score. Two teams that are just dominant throughout most of the season thus far. Michigan 25-1, 15-1 in the Big Ten. Duke 24-2, 13-1 in the ACC, coming off of 3 consecutive convincing wins after the loss to North Carolina. Michigan, obviously, coming off of a win at Mackey Arena against Purdue. Where do you guys want to start with this one? Because I think we've all probably got some thoughts.
Well, I'll let you take first crack at this.
I mean, the big one for me, so I think is not controversial pick here. I think Duke has the best player in this game. And I think Duke may have the 3rd best player in this game with Isaiah Evans. He's just been so good and strong this year. But the question for me begins at about player number 5 or so overall here, because I think Yak's probably number 2, whereas maybe number 4, I guess, depending on how you look at it, impact-wise. Can Duke get good performances from the non-stars in this game? Because that's been the key to getting them over the top. I think that Duke actually matches up pretty well here from a defensive standpoint. I think that they can stand up front court-wise decently well. I don't believe that they're an elite front court two-way necessarily, but they can hang in there quite well and force Michigan into some tough twos. And if they can get this game to be played on their terms, it would be probably advantageous, I would argue, if Duke can slow this game down. I don't think that a Duke win here looks like one where Michigan's running up and down in transition, getting a lot of quick points in the first 10 seconds of the shot clock. If Duke can hang in there defensively, be able to guard these actions one-on-one, not have to rotate over a second guy. Michigan's not huge on threes, obviously, but they can certainly hit them, as we saw against Purdue. And, when you flip the ball here and let Duke have it, I want to see, because we've seen Michigan sort of play back a bit more of a drop coverage. Does Duke have it in them to take advantage of that off the dribble? And if Michigan overcompensates by sending a second guy hard hedging that, is Duke going to be able to take advantage quickly of the short roll and of those 4-on-3 possessions? I like the matchup for Duke here. I definitely think there's a body blow aspect to it for Michigan having to go on the road to Mackey. I know that they won, fairly convincingly, but that's still hard. That's a really hard travel deal. And then coming back, to Madison Square Garden, while Duke is not that the ACC is nearly as bad as it's been the last couple of years, but it's a little easier having played Duke's last couple of games than it would be playing Michigan's. So I'm intrigued to see the first 5 minutes. If Duke starts on a roll and really feels like they're in control of this game, can Michigan change the tone of that is what I'm looking for.
Jonathan?
Yeah, it's so tough to pick against Michigan these days. They're just so dominant and really don't, unless they're turning it over a lot, they don't really do anything poorly. So it's tough to pick a weakness, but I do think that Will made a good point. The number one thing to me in this game, if Duke wants to win, is get it to a 65 possession or below basketball game. Don't let Michigan get out and run. Keep it in the half court. On offense, I think Duke may try some pick and pop stuff just to, keep things perimeter oriented. Obviously, a big thing against Michigan with how good their rim defense is being able to hit outside shots. We saw Wisconsin do that with their bigs. Pat Gungba and Malik Brown, not great shooters, but Cam Boozer very capable from out there. So I wonder if they do some pick and pop stuff with him.
Yeah, I mean, my kind of question here is Michigan's athletic profile in the front court. I are there guys that are that much better equipped to maybe handle Boozer than with Lendeberg and Merez, kind of physically and athletically? I think that I don't think anyone's going to be able to totally shut down Boozer in any aspect of any game. I mean, he's a walking 20 and 10, but I do think that there's a world here where Michigan can kind of overwhelm Duke athletically in the front court a little bit, can kind of force them to get the ball out of Boozer's hands and into the hands of their guys who aren't elite creators. And this maybe ends up having to be a game where Caleb Foster has to win some matchups, where Isaiah Evans really has to come out and make some shots. I don't think Duke wins this game unless Isaiah Evans makes 3 threes at least, probably, which he's done in each of the last 3 games, but he didn't do in the 6 games before that. Who knows what will happen with him? And obviously, we know how good Michigan's defense has been throughout the year. I mean, these are the top 2 defenses in college basketball, and I think that's with good reason. If you look at the way that these rosters are constructed with size and the way that these front courts are constructed with physicality, I think it's really easy to see how these are the top 2 defenses in the sport. I'm also kind of curious to what the crowd looks like in DC. Obviously there will be a lot of fans from both teams, but is it going to be a rowdy crowd? Is it going to be kind of is it going to feel like a Garden neutral site crowd, or is it going to feel like is Duke going to be able to pack it more? Is Michigan going to be able Duke's? I wouldn't ever say Duke won't pack a building, but Michigan isn't going to not pack that place right now. I mean, I assume it's sold out. That's a little bit too much discourse on the crowd, but should be an interesting one.
They're both national brands. I think we're going to both have a lot of fans there. Usually I wouldn't be Usually I would not think twice about a Duke crowd somewhere in the Northeast, but Michigan is not that far and is also a national brand.
Michigan is another school that, if they're playing in the Northeast, Michigan fans are everywhere in the Northeast.
Yeah, and I mean we saw it last night, I think, right? Maybe 2 nights ago, that Michigan is going to preference the East region if they get the number 1 overall.
No, they're preferencing Philadelphia, not
that is over Buffalo.
Yeah, but they still want Chicago for the second weekend.
Oh, okay, I see.
Yeah, I think Duke's going to have to force turnovers. But do they want to make it a fast game and run in transition? Probably not. But I think they will have a little bit of trouble in the half court with creating if Boozer isn't able to kind of control the game the way he's used to because of the physicality in Michigan's front court, which is certainly, again, a possibility. Duke has played against a couple elite front courts this year. I mean, they did really well I think against Florida, offensively, they were 60% inside the arc. But against Michigan State, it was a little bit less. They were 46% inside the arc, and they had to take a bunch more threes in that game. And that was a while ago in a sense. And they did play Carolina recently when Carolina had Vasar and Wilson, and they were 48% inside the arc, but they got to a lot of spots inside the arc, and they won the rebounding battle in that game. So I am curious to see how Duke is able to create offense in the half court in this game. I think I don't really think I can see Duke winning by like a big margin. I can see Michigan, like if they come out and hit shots, winning by like 15 or 20. I could see Michigan kind of doing that to anyone. I would think Michigan kind of has just the edge because I would feel dumb to not pick against Michigan at any point right now. But I would not be surprised if Duke is able to kind of win this game in a close battle.
I actually think that I'm like a lot more interested in like the aftermath of this game and like what people will say coming out of it, because I think if Michigan wins handily, like this is going to like start to get into like, where does this team rank all time, if they will go and win the title, like, and then if like, if it's close or like, they lose, like, I think that like, I wonder like what the dialogue around them will be and what the dialogue around, a Duke team that lost to UNC a couple weeks ago will be.
Yeah. I mean, these are the top two teams in KenPom right now, and they are having historic KenPom level seasons. Michigan right now is 0.01 behind what Duke was at last year.
One other aspect of this game I guess I'd look for is, hate to say it, but the whistle. Like what kind of whistle defines this game? If they let them both play, I do think Michigan wins. But if this is a stricter whistle where Michigan maybe doesn't get away with as much on the interior defense, or, Duke against top 200 teams this year, I think second in free throw defense rate, which is, really remarkable. They just don't foul. Like they're very good at defending without fouling. If it would be a little surprising to me to see like a Yaks get into foul trouble, but if you're like Morris Johnson picks up 2 early fouls or Mara does or something like that, that wouldn't shock me, and that would change the calculus for me for Duke if they can get either or both of those guys into some early foul trouble.
Yeah, definitely changes the way that the lineups have to go for Michigan. Duke's schedule coming out of this, they have Notre Dame next, but they do have to play Virginia, NC State, North Carolina to finish the season. 2 of those 3 games are at home, and who knows what North Carolina is going to look like at that point. Those are some of the tougher games that you'll get in the ACC, but even then, it's they have 82, 71, 90% chances to win those games per KenPom, which still shows how kind of far ahead of the rest of the ACC Duke is, even though the ACC is much improved this year, and that's something we've talked a lot about.
Yeah, Virginia might be the quietest 23-3 team ever.
Yeah, we'll talk about them a little bit later because they have a big one tomorrow as well. And then let's go over to Houston, Texas, where Arizona, a little bit bruised and battered right now, without Koa Pete, without Dwayne Aristode, will have to go into Houston and face the Cougars coming off of a loss.
I don't think that the way Jaden Bradley has played over the last couple weeks, that like they'll be able to handle the hard hedging and blitzing unless he starts to play a lot better. Putting it simply, he has not been good enough.
I don't disagree there. I think that one of the key aspects for this game is that Pete is a guy that can give you some relief against the hard hedge, because he can come out and catch the ball in short roll spots, in high spots, and maybe create from the perimeter against some different uneven lines. I don't know where they're getting a ton of creation from in this game if their ball is going to be forced out of Bradley and Barry's hands on ball screens at that point, because the high low stuff and that they haven't, that none of their none of their bigs are great passers right now. Krivas doesn't make a ton of decisive passes. Awaka doesn't make a ton of decisive passes either. They're great players. They're great rebounders. That's just not something. The passing just isn't part of the aspect of their game. And Arizona likes to get their guards into the mid-range spots. They like to kind of win with their guards creating off of the dribble and getting to the bigs in the post as well. And I think that Houston kind of makes it difficult for your guards to win off the dribble, and they make it difficult for your bigs to win in the post with the way that they are able to double both of those spots, and the way that Houston's bigs are able to defend, as we know. I think this is just straight up a kind of bad matchup for Arizona, even though the Wildcats still have not been out rebounded all year, and I would not be surprised if that doesn't change. Houston is not as dominant of a rebounding team this year as it has been in the past couple of years, and Arizona still has their two of the best rebounders in the country on the floor. That's kind of a stat that I've been tracking, but I'm not sure how much it matters when the offensive creation aspect against a Houston team is compromised. I think Houston's defense is going to exert itself in this game, force a bunch of turnovers, force the ball out of the hands of the guards. And unless Arizona can maybe get Del Orso to hit a bunch of threes or off of some swing passes, or kind of find a way to get Karchenkov attacking in different spots, I think that Houston is going to be able to win this game.
Yeah, I really struggle with this one for Arizona for a few reasons. One, the Pete deal. So they're 7 points worse per 100 when he's off the court. Not like a gigantic stunning margin, but there's a lot of little data in there that matters to me. Like their rim rate falls by almost 8%. They take 8% more jumpers from three, which is not like a bad thing. I mean, it could benefit Arizona in the long run to learn how to shoot from three. But I don't love the way that they're set up in this game. I also don't like, in general, a team that plays through the post going to play Houston. I think that can be a really bad deal if you're hoping to score efficiently on a bunch of one-on-one post-ups against the Houston Cougars. I worry about them just getting bogged down offensively over and over and over in this game. And yeah, like the rebounding could actually favor Arizona for once here, but this is not an Arizona team that forces turnovers, and it's obviously a Houston offense that doesn't turn it over. The big one for me here, beyond any other thing you could discuss, like Flemings or Sharp or whatever, Tobe Awaka has to be really good in this game. He can't have a game where he's in foul trouble basically from tip-off. And I know it's really hard against Houston, but without Pete, he's going to have to play way more lineups without Pete this year. Awaka's garnered the equivalent of what would be 31 minutes in a 40-minute game when Pete is off the court. I'm just going to be honest with you, boys. I'll believe it when I see it, where Tobe Awaka plays 31 minutes in this game, because he gets a little too handsy for my liking. And when he leaves the court, that's going to leave a real power vacuum at the 4 and 5 that I think they're just going to, to put a point on it, run out of bodies for.
I'm just generally concerned about Arizona without Pete, not even from a perspective of in this game. It's not Texas Tech levels of losing a body, but for Arizona, they really don't have a super deep bench. And even though I think that Pete wasn't playing some of his better ball, I think he was crucial to kind of their identity and what they needed to do. And losing him as a guy that plays 65-70% of the minutes on a team that does not really have another guy that can replicate his type of role off the bench is really difficult.
Yeah, I mean, they're going to functionally, and I'm sure City Gay or Edison aren't somebody off the bench might garner a cameo here or there, but they were functionally playing with a 6-man rotation in this game. And again,
and if they have to go beyond that, then
they're in serious trouble.
You're really concerned about if you have to use City Gay, Evan Nelson in a game like this.
Yeah. You don't want to get there, and against Houston of all teams, it's about the last team in the sport I want to be playing with a 6-man rotation.
Yeah, I don't want to have to see Gay more than a couple minutes if you absolutely need him. But yeah, I am concerned about the Awaka aspect of this because playing about 20 minutes a game, I felt like has always been like the perfect amount for him because of the foul trouble, but also just because like he plays so hard that like if you limit his minutes, he can go that much harder for the limited amount of time and provide more impact than, playing 30 minutes and, maybe running out of gas. Like, I think, when you look at this, if Arizona is not going to have a definitive advantage on the inside, which I don't think they will in this game, like comparing the guards, which, it's not apples to apples, but Houston's guards can get their own, all of them. And I don't think that Arizona's guards are going to be able to do that consistently against this. Like, Bradley is a good playmaker. He's not a guy that I see as like I'm going to go get you a bucket without a screen.
Yeah. I like Houston also kind of coming off a loss, a game that they really hadn't had that game in the bag. They were up 10 with 7 minutes left. Iowa State makes a great comeback. It's two really, really, really great basketball teams in a really great basketball game in a really great basketball environment. This will be the same. Two great basketball teams in a great basketball environment. I just think Houston has so much more in the tank at this point than Arizona, and it's unfortunate because I was really looking forward to kind of seeing Arizona go up against this stretch of the schedule with the way that they'd been playing, and obviously losing Pete within that Texas Tech game changes the aspect of this throughout the entire season. Hopefully he comes back at some point. I hope he comes back as soon as possible. But who knows?
The I think aspect of this that like we might have missed, or like anyone could have missed, is like Arizona, if they lose, like in real danger of like dropping, not after this game, but like in danger of dropping to a 2 seed, which like you would have never thought a couple weeks ago. And like they're the only one that is in contention for a 1 seed that would want the West region. So that's like kind of important for them.
I would also I mean they're gonna have to win one of these three against Houston, Kansas, and Iowa State just to stay on the one line for sure. Maybe two. I mean UConn is probably not getting a 1 at this point. After the loss to Creighton this week, which we'll talk a little bit about.
I still think they're kind of close.
We'll have to see. Let's go to the SEC. Tennessee and Vanderbilt. Tennessee has won 7 of its last 8 games. Now the last 3 have not been against NCAA tournament teams, and they did lose to Kentucky in this stretch as well. But the Vols are playing better basketball. Nate Ament has been awesome recently. Completely figured it out. We talked about there was a point where every podcast episode that came after a Tennessee game, we were updating his half-court rim field goal percentage, and it was always low. He is getting to the line a lot. He is scoring in a bunch of different ways. The 3-point shot has really come along as well. So really think Ament has kind of been the piece that's helped spearhead this. And then for Vanderbilt, they coming off that loss to Mizzou, obviously Duke Miles has now been out for a little bit of time, and obviously so has Frankie Collins. Tyler Tanner's been awesome, but that backcourt, it just feels so much thinner without Miles and Collins, and it puts a lot more on the front court and the wings for this team. What are the key matchups that you guys see in this one?
I mean, the big one for me is that point guard. If Jacoby Gillespie can outplay Tyler Tanner here, I think Tennessee certainly can win. That's easier said than done. But that because I think the Ament thing is more or less a given here. This is now. I will note really quickly. I did take a quick check of Vanderbilt Twitter before we started this. The lean is that Duke Miles is playing tomorrow. That is not confirmed, but that's the plan, it seems, is that he'll at least play. I don't know if he's going to start or play a lot of minutes, but he is supposed to play. So it does change the calculus for me towards Vandy a little. But I imagine Ament is going to get to the line a lot here. This is a Vandy team that fouls a lot. They if this wasn't at Memorial Gym, I'd feel a lot better. Tennessee, I would say arguably in conference play, the best rebounding team in the country, them or Florida. And, that combined with Vandy's defensive rebounding struggles, combined with Vandy having a lot of problems fouling because, when you have Collins and Miles out there together, at least two of them, or one of them plus Tanner, that changes the way that they can apply pressure on the perimeter so much. They force so many more turnovers with at least two of those three in the game. And we've only got the one. That opens up the spot for more driving lanes. And this front court, try as they might, just not a great rim protection unit. They can block shots, not super efficiently. Jalen Washington gets in foul trouble a lot. If Washington gets in foul trouble, it's 6'7" Devin McCloughan at center. While McCloughton's not bad at it, it's still a 6'7" guy against Tennessee's gigantic front court. But again, I would like more of this weren't at Memorial. If Vandy weren't coming off of a pretty tough and what I'm sure they consider annoying road loss, and if Miles weren't coming back, it seems. If Gillespie, I guess my number I'm shooting for here, if Gillespie and Ament combine for 50 plus, Tennessee can win this game. Anything short of that, and I think it's going to be a tough sell.
Yeah, and you talked about Vandy's ability to force turnovers on the perimeter. Tennessee does turn it over more than any other team in the SEC during conference play, but those aren't Gillespie turnovers. They're not necessarily like perimeter turnovers. They're more turnovers when you get the ball to anybody else on the floor, and which might be something that you try and feed the post if you can get Washington into foul trouble and you have Carey and Brown and Akpara against that front court, which would be depleted without Washington. And maybe that is something that you see come into effect with the way that Vandy is able to force some turnovers. But the way that these teams create or commit and then force turnovers is not exactly, even though the matchup would suggest just statistically that Vandy would create a ton of turnovers, they don't create turnovers the same way. These two teams. So I'm curious to see how that impacts this one.
Yeah, I think if Gillespie and Ament slow this down, Tennessee's got a great chance. Like, Vandy's a team that's going to want to get out and pressure you. And like the other thing that pops out to me is, something that like Will kind of said. Sam, we were pretty critical early in the year of like how many post touches like Jalen Carey was getting for Tennessee. I actually think this is a game where he could be really highly effective. Because I don't think Vandy has anyone that can guard a body type like his.
Yeah.
And if you'll recall, Carey was there last year, so this is a fun reunion game.
Yeah. I wonder what the reception is going to be like for him at the
not good.
At the that can't be popular, that move.
No, it's a actual like hidden bonus of portal life is these like Roddy Gale, Ohio State to Michigan, even with coaching, Mark Madsen taking the Cal job. That's it's something that you really only used to see in like European soccer that is starting to come over to college basketball, and I frankly quite like it. We need, the only thing better than hate is more hate sometimes in college sports, so I think we need it.
I mean, there's Johnny Damon and Jacoby Ellsbury, which in baseball, those two worked out in different ways for the Yankees. One of them ended up with a World Series win with the Yankees. The other definitely did not. But both of them are world champion Red Sox. So
one other aspect of this game I do want to hit on really quick that I am looking for specifically as it pertains to post play. Tennessee, several of their turnovers the last couple of games, I'm curious if you two have noticed this, have come from really lazy entry passes by Bishop Boswell. He has got to improve those immensely. Those have got to have some aggression and some force to them. If you're going to feed the post, don't half-ass it, is what I would say.
So when Bishop Boswell was a senior in high school, I was still writing for the Tennessee side at SI, and that like I watched a lot of film on him because I knew he was a big Tennessee target, and like one of the things I noticed is like he can be really lazy with the ball on offense sometimes, and like it's still something that I think he's working through. He was always a defense first player, even as a high school player at Myers Park, but yeah, like I think that's a concern and something he will need to clean up to play important minutes in this game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, some good thoughts on that. Let's move to Friday night, Friday 10, ESPN 2. It'll be a packed Chaffetz Arena, and this game has A10 title implications, obviously. St. Louis at 12-1, coming off of the loss to Rhode Island. Tough road loss this week when Rhodey had Jonah Hinton go off and make a program record 9 threes, going up against now VCU, which has the longest win streak in the A10, has won 10 games in a row, has not lost since January 10th when it lost at George Mason, is 12-2. VCU takes over first place in the A10 with a win in this game. I don't think that will happen.
I honestly think that what happened Tuesday night at Rhode Island was a great example of a look-ahead game where the opposing team at home could not miss.
Like, yeah, I think it's as simple as that.
Like, I literally think that's all it was. Like, Rhode Island could not miss a shot, could not miss a free throw. Like, it happens, and it turns out that, like, you know, there were worse games on the schedule for that to happen to SLU.
Yeah, and honestly, you'd rather have it happen there than here, I would argue. You know, if it's on the road, you can kind of chalk it up and say, whatever. It's at home in a game like this, it's a toughie. I loved how well St. Louis played defensively in the first game. I thought they forced VCU to a lot of tough twos. Now, VCU did the same. I thought VCU was very good defensively in the first battle, too. I'm hoping, for the sake of viewership, that this one is not that game, because the Torvik projected score of 90-79 would be a great game to watch. I don't really want a repeat of the first one. I will say, I'm playing with the team cast right now at Torvik. VCU 3-1 the rest of the way. 45th in wins above bubble. Not bad. Probably first 4 out territory, I would imagine. So if you want multi-bid A10, probably better for VCU to win this, I would think.
Or Fordham goes and wins the A10 tournament.
Yeah, or yeah. So actually, for me, my ideal scenario here is probably VCU win, SLU obviously an at-large regardless. Then a nice third team pops up in the A10 for a 3-bid A10.
Yeah. Fordham.
Yeah, whoever, it doesn't matter. It could be LaSalle for all I care. Let's get 3 bids to this league.
That would be
LaSalle and Fordham.
That would be quite the week leading up to the tournament on Twitter if we had 3 A10 teams in the tournament. And then they'd probably all lose by like an average margin of 15.
Oh. Shout out Tyler Cronin, 3-bid league. We're getting it back this year.
Unconventional ways.
Yeah, but I think St. Louis is going to be able to win this one.
I just struggle to figure out what's VCU's plus matchup here. Where do they have the advantage 1 through 5?
I think one of the things that's like really key for SLU is like they have like, you know, kind of Kellen Thames is that X factor who you can kind of put on anyone you need him to guard, and he'll limit them at worst.
So. Yeah, like I could see Djokovic having a big game here, maybe. But like that's kind of like you said, Thames can really match up almost anywhere. And I'm just looking through the roster here, generally trying to figure out what the plus matchup for VCU is offensively. And I'm really struggling to see it. I think the only plus thing I can think of is if they just run out a bunch off of SLU misses, which, as we've kind of discovered over the last few months, SLU doesn't miss many shots. So it's going to be a hard game for them, I would think.
Yeah, especially going on the road in a tough environment against a really good team. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And like VCU gets to the line a lot. SLU does put teams on the line a decent amount, but SLU also has enough depth where they can kind of overcome that. They're not the type of team that needs their first 5 guys out there. They're benched with Dunlap, Otieno, as you mentioned, Thames and Sharma. That's 4 guys that I would trust out there. If those 4 guys were starters and you had like an average A10 replacement player as the 5th guy, like that's probably still a pretty solid A10 team.
Yeah. And I'm also going to say, like, I just don't like how much VCU funnels to the rim in a game like this. Their coverage does kind of funnel almost everything to the paint. While SLU's really they're going to produce their kick-out threes regardless. I don't like that setup in a game where, you've got Avila, you've got Green, Sharp, like all these guys who can attack the paint so well in so many different ways. It's just I feel like it's kind of inviting a game where SLU goes for 90.
Yeah.
Dennis Gates just compared Darius Acuff to Chris Paul, and I wanted you guys to know.
Dennis Gates also compared.
Isn't Chris Paul like 6 feet nothing?
The first time these two played, St. Louis and VCU, that was kind of the game where we all were like, okay, yeah, this SLU team, like we were talking about their offense. Now let's talk about their defense. I wonder if this game kind of brings us back to saying, yeah, like the offense is going to, like, because obviously they're terrific on both sides of the ball, number one in that league on both sides of the ball. As you mentioned, I think they could be, I think they could have a really big performance offensively.
Mm-hmm.
I'll let you guys pick where we go next. I've got a couple games that I've got listed: Miami, Virginia, Iowa State, BYU, UConn, Villanova, Winthrop, High Point.
Why don't we do UConn Nova? Because UConn's just lost. Nova's won, what, 6 in a row now?
Nova's won a whole bunch in a row, yeah.
But like not a lot of them have been like convincing.
Yeah, I mean, Villanova's a good team in the Big East for sure. They're 12-3. I mean, this is a chance for them to shake up the Big East title picture, because it would be UConn's third loss if Villanova were able to win, and St. John's would be then 2 games ahead of the pack, with the tiebreaker against UConn for the moment. Those two play on Wednesday, but UConn defense right now just has been pretty bad the last 4 games. 1.18 points per possession against St. John's, 1.16 against Butler, 1.15 against Georgetown, and 1.21 against Creighton. That's bad. Like, for a team that for most of the season was in the top 5-7 defensively, that's a pretty sharp, drastic decline at this point in the season. Dan Hurley is going into the press conference like, we have players that are bad in individual defenders, and I mean, Caravan is kind of like playing on. Caravan's playing hurt right now. He hasn't been very good defensively recently. Ball has kind of reverted back to not playing very good defense after he was actually looked much improved in that element early in the year. And I think the biggest problem for UConn isn't necessarily that. It's that they can't split their lineups anymore because they're not getting anything out of their bench. Malachi Smith over the last couple of weeks has not been good at all. Jalen Stewart has been very disappointing throughout the year, and especially recently. He hasn't scored in the last 3 games, and he's only played more than 10 minutes, like a couple times in that stretch as well. Jaden Ross, who brings a lot of energy, who brings a lot of energy and played 27 minutes in the last game. He hasn't been very good throughout the season either. And those are kind of and Ryba's obviously your other bench guy as your big, and you'd rather have Terrace Reed in the game, obviously, for what he's able to bring you in terms of just rebounding and throw it into him, you score. But even Terrace Reed, I think, has gotten he had the Georgetown game where he was really bad, and then was better against Creighton for sure. But UConn is playing some concerning levels of basketball right now in terms of the defense and the bench, in my eyes. And with this stretch of the schedule coming up, you got at Villanova, then home St. John's, and then home Seton Hall, which Seton Hall's given UConn trouble over the last few years. Granted, not at UConn. It's mostly been at Seton Hall, but we'll have to see what happens there. And then obviously at Marquette, who Jonathan is picking to win the Big East tournament.
Yes, I stand by it.
But there's an avenue for UConn to figure this out, because again, as I said, they played terrific defense throughout most of the season, and their offense, which we said was clunky throughout most of the year, I think their offense has kind of turned the corner. it's looked great. They scored. I mean, they scored 84 points in that game against Creighton. Like, that was certainly not the issue. The problem is that they're not getting anything from their bench, so they have to play lineups where they have multiple bad defenders out there consistently on the wings, and they're just relying so heavily on Demery, on Reed, on Rybo when he's in the game to bring them something defensively, that they are just struggling right now. And Caravan, who for his career has been a terrific defender, very underrated defender, has not been playing good defense recently, maybe because he's playing a little bit hurt. But maybe, who knows? UConn's got to be better, and they've got to be better fast.
Yeah, Malachi Smith has been downright terrible in conference play after a really promising start to the season. And, Jalen Stewart, who Sam, you and I both had high hopes for, has not been very good in conference play either. So that really limits your, depth in the backcourt, on the wings. Like, Jaden Ross has been fine, but he turns it over a ton. So, like,
he doesn't touch the ball a ton.
Yeah, I mean, when he does, he can make shots. Like you said, he has energy. But yeah, like, this team is becoming thinner, it feels like, but by the game. Like, Ryba's been fine, but I still don't think, like, when a team has a real physical center, you can put him out there for very, very long. And, if Terrace is in foul trouble, which it's been better this year, I will say, that's a problem. So, like you said, they're having to play too many bad defenders at the same time. And, Caravan playing hurt doesn't exactly help you either. Like, this can get figured out. UConn's got a good roster and a really smart staff, obviously, but right now they got a lot of work to do.
Yeah, I worry about their bench. I mean, they're functionally down to 7 playable guys at best. Now, you could kind of say the same about Villanova. Like, Bryce Lindsey's been awful in conference play, and when you're 7th as Braden Pierce, it is what it is. But it's an interesting game to me where I don't think either of these teams' offenses are set up to exploit the other team's defense. Like, the way that Villanova, attacks the gaps defensively is, I guess what I'm getting is they more like drop coverage, sink in. It's not really the way UConn would prefer to attack. They don't really fall for, like, hard hedging or, like, letting bigs run loose really in the pick and roll, which that's been UConn's best source of offense for a large portion of the season. They defend inside out play pretty well. It's a weird game where, like, I don't think UConn can score that many on them. And I definitely don't think Villanova is really built to exploit, what UConn does defensively. They're more like trying to produce those kick out threes, or in a similar way, hit their bigs in the pick and roll, run some inside out play. And UConn defends all of that really well. I wouldn't be shocked if this is a game where it's kind of like 1st to 55 almost. It could be pretty ugly, could be very slow, which I anticipate. I don't think we're going to see much transition play in this game. And based on the way these two have been playing lately, it's kind of going to be a real grinded out, old school Big East style game where, I think the winner is going to feel like they've been hit with hammers by game's end. I do feel this is a true 50-50 game. I guess I would lean by a hair Villanova, but I'm not going to act like I feel great about that pick.
My problem with Villanova right now is, like, although they've won 6 in a row, I feel like they've kind of lost a little bit of their identity that they had in the preseason. Like, they were a really physical rebounding team early in the year. And right now, if you look at Big East ranks, not good. 7th in offensive rebound rate, 9th in defensive rebound rate. Like, that opening night game against BYU, that was one of the things that popped out to me, was how physical they were inside. And they're not anymore. So, like, now, they're just a team that wants to take care of the ball, turn you over, play hard on the perimeter. I don't love that overall, but, like, it could work against the UConn team that is becoming really thin.
Yeah, I think that sort of style tracks to me. I don't think, like, Villanova is going to be able to score much at the rim in this game in particular. Like, I do think rebounding slants towards UConn, but I think the turnover margin probably slants towards Villanova in this game. Demery's been loose with the ball at times this year. And I don't know. It's like part of me does want to zag back with like the look ahead thing you mentioned earlier in a different game and just pick UConn here. But yeah, I don't know. I'm not going to be really surprised by anything here, except for the fact I do think the winner wins this by 6 or less.
Yeah, I mean, the last time these two played, it was kind of a slugfest. It was 64 possessions in overtime.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll let you guys choose where we go next. Will, I know you have a hard out soon, so I'll kind of let you.
Will, you take this one.
Pick your spot.
I picked the last one.
Let's make sure we knock out Iowa State BYU here really quick. I'm not going to act like I am hugely invested in this game until it is proven to me that BYU can win this without Richie Saunders. But I am fascinated, obviously, to find out how many shots AJ DeBonsa can put up in this game, because I think his usage rate against Arizona was 46%. And on the year, his usage rate in lineup sans Saunders is 41%, which is insane. So we could see the rare, what was Kobe's? It was 50 in his final game? 50 shot attempts?
Something like that.
Could we see 35 in a college game from DeBonsa?
Okay. One other thing I want to mention, that's because it's something we've been keeping track of. Since January 10th, Jonathan, BYU 46th in Torvik in that stretch. That's below Grand Canyon, below Washington. That's not great. 15th in offense, 163rd in defense in that stretch.
Yeah.
And now I think that offense gets so much worse without Saunders. It's just two gut-wrenching injuries in the Big 12. Obviously 3 if Pete. Hopefully Pete comes back, but we don't know. But we do know that Saunders won't, and we know that JT Toppin won't. I think those are kind of made almost haymakers to those teams' seasons. BYU's was already kind of just hanging on. They lost all their games to the top teams in the Big 12. They're 7-6 in the Big 12, Jonathan. They could be 500 if they lose this game. They will be 500 if they lose this game in the Big 12. And that's, I mean, DeBonsa having to be Superman. Maybe he is Superman.
It would be very good for content if he was, especially given how poorly Darren Peterson played against the same defense. And it would be the most college basketball result I can see on the board here if BYU won.
Yeah, I will also say I saw the despite the loss tweets for AJ DeBonsa's last game, and I'm like, damn, we're getting despite the loss from the big ESPN account for a college player.
Usually we save those for Frankie Vision.
Anything else, Will, that really you want to hit on before we kind of do some more whip around? Actually, I've got a couple more games, but if Will has any thoughts that he likes.
One other game I do want to note, just because I'm staring at it on the board here. We got to talk that Cincinnati's 41st in Torvik somehow and has kind of been good lately. I would not say great by any stretch, but they've certainly not been bad. Whooped UCF, demolished Kansas State on the road, beat Iowa State in the last month. They're not awful. And I have to mention this because they do play Kansas on the road. I think 1 tomorrow.
It's right after the early reveal show.
Yeah, look, if Darren Peterson was bored with playing Oklahoma State, I don't think he's going to be terribly happy to get up for Cincinnati. So it's not outlandish. It's unlikely, very unlikely, but it's not outlandish. And it would be very funny.
Small sample size, obviously. Cincinnati, though, is 14th in Torvik in the month of February. So, they have been playing well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, I'm out.
It feels like everyone is obviously very frustrated with the Darren Peterson stuff, especially Kansas fans. But it feels like Kansas hasn't really had a terrible loss this year without him. It feels like we're one loss to Cincinnati or something.
The UCF one was where he pulled himself out of that game in the second half and they lost.
But like a home loss to Cincinnati where he plays like
Jonathan?
17 minutes or whatever would just be like a total meltdown.
Yeah. And then Kansas has to go play Houston and Arizona next.
I kind of this is, obviously a tough situation for any coach, but like it just like must like kill Bill Self, because like Kansas is a good team without Peterson. Like they're competitive. They play defense. Council's a great distributor of the basketball. But like, if they got sick of this and like told Peterson like, yeah, we're just gonna roll with like the guys we have, like you're punting on any national championship chance you have.
Yeah. Miami, Virginia is a big game in the ACC. Virginia at 23-3, coming off of that monster, just kind of up by 75 at halftime against Georgia Tech game, where Owen Odom got into an ACC game for the second time, by the way. So they win at Georgia Tech by 26. They probably should have won that game by more than 26. Now they play Miami at home. Miami does have that road win over NC State that you and DeRosa talked about on Saturday Night Live last week. They squeaked out a win against Virginia Tech this week. Miami's kind of been squeaking some of these out. They squeaked out the Boston College game. They only won that by 6. So I do think Virginia kind of swings them over the head in this one.
Miami's got some weird reverse splits. I don't know if you guys have seen this. Away from home, 28th at Torvik, at home, 53rd. So they got. I don't know if that's like because they're so front court heavy, because they kind of can really dominate on the boards. I'm not sure what that's about, but it does really intrigue me here. But I do agree. I think this is a should be Virginia win. And I would like to see them start winning with more intensity. Like I would like to see them win this game by 20.
I feel like there's more like, this is going to sound really, I feel like there's more like elite team, like more like good teams that are like elite rebounding teams this year than in past years.
Yeah. Shot volume's back, baby.
Mm-hmm.
I was wondering, because I want to say like, I was going to start that with like, I feel like more teams are elite rebounding teams this year, which like, no, there's elite rebounding teams every year. I just think like more like relevant teams are elite rebounding teams this year. Game of the
I feel like very often you'll have like elite rebounding teams that are just like completely unwatchable in all other facets of the game. Like Texas A&M last year,
Texas this year.
Yeah, but you're right.
No,
Tennessee some nights.
Will, I will give you the floor to talk about any of the other SEC games for your last couple of minutes.
Oh, I love my slot. I love this SEC slot. A&M Oklahoma, pretty intriguing. Should be a lot of fun. I don't think either of these teams can defend the other. Oklahoma, fascinating viewing experience in person, I got to say. Nigel Pack remains really fun to watch. The rest of this team looks like they do not care defensively one bit. And I think Porter could be working for Basket Under Review next year. Alabama, LSU.
Hey, Nigel Pack's college career lasted longer than Jerome Tang's head coaching tenure.
Exactly. Alabama, LSU, I'm intrigued by. Alabama away from home has been wobbly at best, I would say. They are very up and down. I would never trust LSU to win one of these games, but I do trust them to make it weirdly close for a while. Missouri, Arkansas feels like an Arkansas romp. I think that they're going to be extra motivated after losing the way they lost. Missouri kind of got the win they needed to get as well. So that's like you're paying the spot tax there.
But sure didn't feel like they won that game.
Yeah. So I wonder how, like, what their motivations are going to be. Florida, Ole Miss.
Arkansas was throwing out like Anthony Christensen in overtime.
Yeah. So Arkansas could be really tired, but they've had a few days off.
I've heard of Karu Letwa because we've talked about that exact fact that they have nobody. Like they have nobody on their bench on the pod. But Elmir Zafik, like you might as well put Anthony Christensen on stilts in the game. Maybe Jackson Collier on stilts, and it's no different.
I really do miss Melo Sanchez.
Hey, Melo Sanchez is at Central Connecticut now.
I know he is.
Other two here. So Florida, Ole Miss. Could be a bloodletting. We're on Chris Beard ejection watch for this one. I think we got a shot at it. We are also on slop watch. Mississippi State, South Carolina. I just want to let people know that game exists. That is the game between the two worst teams in the SEC by KenPom. Probably not by actual talent. I think LSU's revealed themselves to suck more.
Yeah.
For better or for worse. So keep an eye on that one if you are interested in murders. Could be a good day for you if you like murders on television.
Well, I mean, Alabama basketball does play.
Yeah, that's true. Alabama big into killing. I do want to, before we hit out the door, can we chat about two games tonight really quick? Indiana, Purdue, which has some interesting in-state angles, obviously, but also some interesting media angles to it. And obviously Miami of Ohio, I think I want to touch on. Let's touch on the more fun one first. Do you guys think they're going to do it? 31-0?
I'm going to cede the floor to Jonathan here because
regular season?
Yeah, regular season. Conference tournament, let's forget about that for a second. Can they go 5-0 from here?
Yeah, I've given up all hope. They're going 31-0.
Jonathan has sucked all of the joy out of Miami, Ohio for me.
Oh man, you've been out on them?
I just don't think they're any good.
They're not. Let's not get that wrong. They're probably not very good, but it's fun and entertaining, and I do appreciate that.
I've called them a Ponzi scheme on more than one occasion. Yeah, like I think that they're gonna run the table and enter the MAC tournament 31-0, and I think like that probably gets you to the NCAA tournament, or regardless of what happens there. But it's just like I just want them to lose one so we can like be done with this nonsense.
I think it would benefit them if they lost one too. It would just kind of right the ship.
I don't because like they might like.
But then you're going to have the sword of Damocles hanging over your head all the way through the conference tournament.
Yeah, but like you might like two losses, depending on who the losses are to, might not get you in.
Yeah.
If there's bid stealers, like
I actually have no idea like what to make of their NCAA tournament resume right now. Like I think they would be like a borderline like this 10 or 11 seed right now. I'm not certain of that though. Like the problem is like they keep winning, but like the metrics don't feel like they keep winning. Like they're not jumping in KenPom at all or anything like that.
I talked about this a couple weeks ago in my article for the Brackets, Bubbles, and Bid Stealers website. Like even that Murray State team in 2012, like they climbed up to the top 30 in KenPom at one point. They were like 66 when they lost to Tennessee State, and they finished the Ohio Valley tournament at 49. So like 30-1, 49 in KenPom, 6 seed. Like okay, if this team goes like 31-1 and is like 80th in KenPom, like
I don't know, man. Yeah, I'm just interested. I like it.
Yeah, we've never.
That's
seen
why I love it.
Yeah,
we probably will never see anything like it again. So I'm excited for. I will say. It does say a lot about their offense to me that I did look this up. They allowed Bowling Green to shoot 67% from 2 in that first game and still won by double digits. So,
well, it was a blowout from like the first minutes, and then Bowling Green just kind of chipped away in the second half.
On Indiana Purdue, I've got a lot of exciting media angles on this. There's been a lot of quitting on Purdue. I've noticed a lot of people who are tapping it. I did love the Mark Titus bit about Purdue as a suburban AAU team. That hit hard. That's a great line.
That was so
true. And the way that they, on Iowa and Nebraska also being like suburbs AAU teams, and Purdue just being like the best suburb AAU.
It's true. That's the great thing about it.
Everyone who's been around AAU basketball knows exactly what he's talking about.
Yes, completely nailed it. That being said, I have a feeling Purdue's winning tonight by like 15 plus. This is a great setup, get right game for them. Indiana I wouldn't say they've done everything they need to do. They probably still have plenty of work to do actually for tournament purposes. But for Purdue. Great get-right game here. Another in a line of get-up spots here for them, weirdly. Talk about 3 banger home games in a row. Michigan, Indiana, Michigan State. That's a crazy run.
And then the Warriors in Wisconsin to end the season.
Yeah. That combined with what I've just noticed from a media perspective of a lot of is Purdue what is it? Are we worried about Purdue?
Yeah.
With 3 question marks and an exclamation point somewhere in there, along with the hashtag pray for Purdue. It just kind of feels we've swung too far on the pendulum. I think we're going to see a little swing back tonight.
This kind of happened last year with them too. Granted, they weren't as good.
They weren't very good
as this team.
I mean, that team couldn't play any defense last year. They were
last year. They start the season well. They play well early in conference play. Then they kind of fall off towards the end of the season. They lose in the quarters of the Big Ten tournament to Michigan. Then they get into the NCAA tournament, and I feel like everyone, including myself, was kind of writing them off. Sam even had to course correct me on that high point game. But then they end up in a Sweet 16 and we're very nearly in an Elite 8.
Jonathan, do you remember what High Point ranked in defense last year?
I don't know the exact number. I know it was not good.
Not well.
200. We'll talk High Point shortly. Will, any champions you want to celebrate quickly before you go?
Of life? Or just conference champions? What are we talking
Yeah,
about?
we've got conference champions that we're celebrating.
You could celebrate champions.
I'm ceding the floor to Florida. I don't want to, but it's over. Yeah. It's been over. Let's give them the SEC title. I think they've won it. A couple that I don't hear a ton of buzz about nationally that I'm sure you guys have covered quite well. Stephen F. Austin kind of seems like they've got that league wrapped all the way up, which is great. We're going to see about the conference tournament. Is that still in Lake Charles?
Yes.
Or did they move it?
Yes, it's still in Lake Charles. And we talk about Stephen F. Austin every pod.
Damn it. I was hoping that wasn't in Lake Charles anymore. That's tough.
We had Matt Breyer on the pod last month.
Good. He could be coaching somewhere else in about a month. We'll find out.
He's going to find his way onto my National Coach of the Year ballot.
Oh, yeah.
Right
now,
got a great, unbelievable.
Right now,
let's shout out Wright State too. Good for Wright State to win the Horizon League roulette this year. Good team, fun team, enjoyable. So those are my 2 I'm going to pick out.
A title this weekend. They do.
Oh, and SWAC, really quick. Shout out Bethune Cookman, which I believe will this be their first title, conference title?
Well, they have a chance to clinch it, I believe, this weekend. They play Alabama A&M.
Let's take a quick look here. I think this is either their first or second ever. Okay, sorry, third. I guess they won it a couple of, but they've definitely never made the NCAA tournament in its current form, and not at the D1 level. So they've got a real shot to do it.
Yeah, their peak is way higher than anyone else in that league.
They just got more talent.
They have players that people would know.
Yeah,
that was my line in the offseason. This team has way too many players that I know for a SWAC roster.
Will, thank you so much for joining us. I'll let you get your final word before we celebrate our champions.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, boys. Excited for tomorrow. Really good weekend, couple of weeks ahead. Crazy that we are, as of Sunday, 3 weeks to Selection Sunday. We are closing in on some good days. And it's also coincided with fake spring here. It got up to 70 this week, which is wonderful. So fake spring plus good basketball means the vibes are way up.
Was 65 in Chicagoland area the other day.
Now
we're right back down to it feels like 10 degrees today.
We got up to 42 degrees in New York, and it had been below 20 for 3.5 weeks. So Jesus. We're all the way back. I unzipped my coat over the last couple of days. I didn't need it zipped all the way.
I'm glad that's the only thing you unzipped.
It's a power move.
All right, Will. Thanks so much for coming on.
Make sure you
are subscribed to Basket Under Review. Mm-hmm. All right, Jonathan. Let's celebrate the champions. We have champions to celebrate. Let me actually tweet out that we're going to celebrate the champions right now.
All right.
Because that's an important thing that we do on this podcast. It's time to celebrate.
Shout out Dan Hurley.
Champions.
And shout out Tristan Newton.
Yes, shout out Tristan Newton. All right, let's start with the Navy midshipmen. Navy is
good. I'm glad we're starting here.
A team that I doubted earlier in the year because I'd never truly been convinced on their stars as stars. They were but Benigni's shooting leap has kind of made him the consummate offensive stud in this league, and it's really completed his game. He's not quite as reliant on getting to the line, and it's really made him. He's going to be the player of the year in the Patriot League. And then Aiden Kehoe, his growth through the years has been tremendous. He had another double-double. I mean, he's got how many double-doubles in a row now? 5 double-doubles in a row for Navy over the last 5 games. That's what happens when you can get a 6'11" kid into a service academy, I guess. But Navy, 14-1 in the Patriot League. They have not lost since January 12th against American. Their last loss before that was November 29th. They were 4-5. They are 18-1 since December 1st. In that stretch of time, Jonathan, they are 149th in Torvik, which isn't crazy, but for a Patriot League team, it's really good. They're 153rd in KenPom throughout the season. Clearly the best team in the Patriot League. They went to Colgate and beat Colgate in a game where Colgate made 48% of its threes in overtime. Really difficult. Colgate obviously has been the premier program in that league for a while. They obviously didn't win it last year, but the Raiders fell to Navy this year. Navy will go to Army looking for a sweep of the Black Knights. And what would be, I believe, let's see how many straight wins. It would be the 4th consecutive win for Navy over Army. And this is all under first-year head coach John Perry, who was the head coach, who was the assistant coach under Ed DeChellis over the last however many years. And they brought back basically everybody that was notable from last year's team. They don't have a deep rotation, but they are really, really experienced. Benigni, Kehoe, Jinwoo Kim, Pennick, Mike Woods, Donovan Draper, Cam Cole is their 7-man rotation. And it's just been dominant in the Patriot League. They beat Lehigh 72-49 at Alumni Hall. And if you'll remember, this is a league where the entire conference tournament is at campus sites. So the road to the NCAA tournament, it'll either be Navy makes the NCAA tournament or somebody goes and wins at Alumni Hall in Annapolis. And that place should be rocking because, you know, the sailors, the Navy students will. Are they cadets, sailors? What are they?
I don't know what the official name is. While you look that up, I'm going to read a couple.
Oh, I guess they're just known as midshipmen.
Oh, all right then. 26 years since they've won a league title in the regular season. They won the division or whatever it was in 2021.
They won the COVID year title, but that doesn't really count. It was shorter.
It was weird. They only played like 17 games or something like that in total that year.
Yeah, and they were really, really good that year.
But yeah, Sam, I got some trivia time for you. The last time that Navy in a non-COVID year won the Patriot League, how many teams were in the league?
Are you going to make me name the teams?
I'm not going to make you name the teams. I'm just asking how many were in the league.
8?
There were 7. 7 teams in the league.
Can I try and name them?
Go for it.
Army and Navy.
Yep, that's 2.
Bucknell.
Bucknell was in the league.
Holy Cross.
Holy Cross was.
Lehigh Lafayette.
You got 6. You got one more.
I'm going to go with American.
No. Almost. Huh?
Is it Colgate?
Yeah.
Okay. I was
very close to being 7 for 7 on that, my friend. Very close.
I was between those two.
Navy right now is the only team in the country to have clinched their league outright. So they are the definitive number 1 seed no matter what.
Well, no, there's one other team that's clinched a 1 seed, but they have not clinched an outright title.
Sorry. Yes. You're right.
And we'll get to them. But Jonathan, what are your thoughts on the midshipmen?
They play a really disciplined brand of defense. They turn you over a little bit, but they prevent threes. They don't allow a ton at the rim. Best block rate in the conference. It's just a very, very disciplined squad. And like you kind of mentioned, having Kehoe in there at 6'11" helps.
Yeah, I think a lot of the rest of this league kind of lost a lot in the offseason. Like Noah Williamson was the star big at Bucknell. He left. Matt Rogers was the star big at American. He left. Jeff Woodward was at Colgate for 100,000 years. He left. And you had Vanderbaan at Lafayette, graduated. So there was kind of a power vacuum in terms of the bigs in this league. And Aiden Kehoe stepped up and not just became the best big in the league, but like by a lot the best big in this league. And that's really, really impressive for him. But again, Navy, they gotta go beat Army this weekend because like that's a huge one for them as a program and as a school.
Navy is looking for their first NCAA tournament appearance since when?
Is it 98?
Yep, 1998. They lost 88-52 to North Carolina in the first round.
Yeah. All right, Jonathan. Let's celebrate another champion. Belmont clinched a share of the MVC title, I believe.
Yep, they did. With 3 games to go.
Valley update / celebrating the champions.
So, I mean, Belmont's played better than anyone in the league for 2 months almost now. They knock off Murray State on the road last weekend, 87-70. I don't really think we got to talk about this game at all, but again, like the underclassmen on this team have just been so good for them this year. Jack Smiley was the Ken Pom MVP, goes for 21. Dylan gives him 19. 16 from Orm. Like, just awesome complimentary pieces around Lundblade, and who Lundblade's not even really the featured guy all the time on this team. His usage rate is down. It's not he's not a guy that has the ball in his hands all the time. So yeah, like Belmont's been better than anyone in this league throughout the course of the season. They've absolutely earned this title. Great coaching job by Casey Alexander. Really fun team that I'll be happy with any MVC team in the NCAA tournament because it's the MVC. But Belmont's a really fun
Jonathan,
team.
I have good news for you. There will be an MVC team in the NCAA tournament.
There will.
Unlike the A10, which is a 0-bid league.
Correct.
And the Mountain West, which is a -1 bid team.
It's been well documented.
There will be a team in the Missouri Valley in the NCAA.
Oh, speaking of that, I have speaking of the 0-bid league, I have some news to report. Our dear friend Tony Patelis has informed me that there will be at least 10 games tomorrow that feel like Elite 8 games. So everyone buckle up.
I mean, he's right. He's right.
At least 10 was his words.
No, I don't disagree with him. Let's celebrate another champion. LIU. This shouldn't be a surprise to anyone.
You're talking about that.
I mean, yeah, LIU clinches the regular season title.
They're good.
At least
they're good.
share.
The good basketball.
13-2 in the NEC. Only losses coming on the road to Lemoyne and New Haven. They should have. They almost blew that game to St. Francis, and then St. Francis handed it to them. Oh my God.
The most intriguing thing about LIU, they're 357th in the country in free throw shooting percentage. That is. But they make up for it with elite free throw defense, 14th in the country.
Hey, it's the fins up is distracting.
Yeah.
For their own shooters.
You don't go into the Shark Tank.
Hold on. You know what I need to do? I'm going to do splits right now of LIU's free throw shooting at home versus in away games. Let's see if there's a difference.
Don't make free throws at the Shark Tank. Just like you don't go to Canisius and win.
All right, let's see. Where can I find the free throw percentage? Overview, multiple splits, home games.
Where are you looking on this?
Just out of curiosity. CBB Analytics.
Okay, that's kind of what I thought.
Let's see. Free throw percentage at home is 69.6, away 62.8. So the fins up actually does help. They shoot 7% better at home than on the road, than in away plus neutral games. I will be posting that stat, and the fins up guys will be will love that. So fins up helps LIU free throw shooters.
You don't go into the Shark Tank and make free throws. You just don't.
Let's see. For away teams, I honestly can't even figure out what this stat is telling me. All right. Let's move.
We got one more.
I mean, I guess I should also just say, like, LIU is probably maybe one of the biggest gaps between them and
yeah, it's like them and High Point probably.
I don't even know about High Point this stretch because Winthrop's really good. We're going to talk High Point Winthrop quickly after this. But yeah, there's that. I mean, obviously, I think Navy is a lot better than the rest of the Patriot League because they're outright champs already. I would say the fourth champion we need to celebrate is the Liberty Flames, who probably hold this title of biggest gap.
Yeah,
even though there's only a 12 spot KenPom gap between them and Sam Houston, and they only won that game by 8 on the road. And they'll play Sam Houston at home.
Sam Houston's good. Like we've talked about them all year. They're good.
I believe Liberty is the only team in the sport
undefeated in conference play.
Let me make sure I have that right. Oh no, Miami, Ohio is obviously undefeated in conference play. They don't count. Yeah.
Ponzi scheme.
So yeah, two teams in the sport undefeated in conference play, Liberty and Miami, Ohio. Jonathan, they played in a game. Who are you rooting for?
Liberty, Miami, Ohio.
Yeah.
Well, normally I'm against,
Liberty. It's whatever.
But
I put you on.
I own Liberty in the Circus League. So.
All right. By the way, can I also say, like, Liberty's like a really, really good basketball team. But I will not be picking them.
I don't think they're as good as they were last year, despite the fact that their record's better.
Yeah, I mean, they're 30 spots lower in KenPom.
They just play with their food too much. They're still obviously good, but like it's the same.
They almost lost. They almost lost to FIU at home last night.
I know. I was watching the tail end of that, but I don't like. They're a good offense, best in the CUSA. I still think like last year, like they don't have the size to go out there and compete in an NCAA tournament game.
I mean, Zach Cleveland is just such a perfect mid-major player. Like, it's like big that can pass, can dribble, like works defensively at that level, rebounds it a lot. Just doesn't have the shooting, doesn't make any free throws. But like, man, he's so fun. Decker can shoot the crap out of it. Matheny. I mean, you surround Zach Cleveland with Brett Decker, 47% from 3. Caden Matheny, 40% from 3. Colin Porter, 39.5. JJ Harper, 41% on lower volume. Like, that is the perfect way to surround Zach Cleveland. Just, they don't need a point guard. Zach Cleveland is their point guard. I mean, and Colin Porter and Caden Matheny are under 6 feet tall, but like neither of them are their point guards because Zach Cleveland's their point guard.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we've celebrated the 4 champions. There are a bunch of other teams that can clinch. We mentioned over the weekend. We mentioned Bethune-Cookman. I'm blanking on the other.
I'm getting really psyched, like, as we wind down here, thinking about the next couple weeks, because there's just so much good basketball to be played, and so much important basketball to be played. Like, Champ Week is great, but like the first week of Champ Week where you have like a ton of good high major games still being played, as well as like conference tournaments are getting rolling, and we're following those. Like it's just great, man.
Yeah, would like to mention that we are getting slate maps back a week from today, Jonathan.
Yeah, the first game.
We got a couple other games to talk.
Do it.
Winthrop High Point.
I just want to say, did I like fall asleep? We didn't talk about Kentucky Auburn, did we?
I don't want to talk about Auburn.
Dude, the aftermath of that game is going to be hilarious. The losing fan base is going to have a total meltdown.
Is that not the case for any game that Auburn?
This is true. Auburn, if they lose, will be 14 and I'll keep this brief so you don't have to talk about it. Auburn, if they lose, will be 14-13 and like probably still in NCAA tournament brackets when
they can't be.
The bubble is very down. Like
they can't be. I'm sorry.
I don't agree with it, but they probably will be at least close.
Winthrop High Point. Game of the weekend at High Point. High Point has gone 13-1. There are only 2 games left in their regular season. Winthrop is 12-1. They've won 12 in a row since losing the conference opener at Longwood. Winthrop beat High Point by 17 earlier in this year. Logan Duncombe went off in that game. Winthrop dominated the interior. Kareem Rozier has been kind of really on and off recently. He had a 30-point game, but where he hit 9 threes, but he's also had some worse performances. If you get the Kareem Rozier that hits 9 threes or that hits 5 or 6 threes, which is a thing, he's come out and done that a bunch this year. You're probably going to have a good chance to win this one. But man, High Point, they're still awesome offensively. They're number 1 in the conference in offense and defense. They're top 5 in the country in turnover rate on both sides of the ball. But in that last game, Winthrop actually won the turnover battle. Winthrop doesn't turn it over a ton. Winthrop wins the glass. They obviously threw Logan Duncombe being a stud rebounder. They have a bunch of shooters in Rozier and Cody Clowett. Dalen Berry is another creator for them as well.
Yeah, fun game. Obviously, really important one in the Big South.
If Winthrop wins, then
they clinch at least a share, right? Or do they probably clinch the 1 seed?
Hold on. If Winthrop wins, then it would need to lose back-to-back games in order for High Point to get the 1 seed.
Yeah, and this is another campus sites tournament, right?
No, it's not. It's in Johnson City, Tennessee, I think.
Got to pull up Hoops HD. Another great website. Big South tournament is in Johnson City, Tennessee. Good call, Mr. Fetterman.
Quiz me.
You want quizzes?
Name a conference. I'll tell you where the tournament is.
Where is the Atlantic Sun tournament this year?
A-Sun, Jacksonville, Florida.
Yeah. Sorry, you were a little delayed. Where is the Conference USA tournament?
Huntsville, Alabama.
Yeah. Summit League, you're gonna know. Sunbelt.
Asheville, North Carolina.
No.
Oh, that's the SoCon. That's the SoCon. Sunbelt's Pensacola.
Yep, it's in Pensacola, Florida.
I screwed up Sunbelt and SoCon.
The Sunbelt tournament bracket, awesome, by the way. It's great.
Okay, the one thing I'll say, that's the one league, that's like one mid-major league that shouldn't do its bracket like that.
Just because it's so even at the top?
Yeah.
Well,
all right, so mid-major games to watch.
The Horizon League bracket is my favorite this year.
I hate it.
It's hilarious.
You can't have 5 games in a round.
I mean, you can't have 5 games in a round. You also
that's also not even like the first round.
They just completely ignored bracketing principles.
Yeah, all right. Some games to watch.
You could do a staggered bracket and it still makes sense. This just completely ignored all bracketing principles.
Some games to watch this weekend. Jonathan, Eastern Washington make it 5 in a row.
They're a wagon.
And now they go on the road to play Portland State, who's number 1 in that league, and I believe has a chance to clinch a conference championship this weekend potentially. But Eastern Washington climbing up. They were 3-6 in the conference. They were 5-17 overall. Now they are 8-6 in the conference. They were the best 2-13 team in the country. I have to go back and clip that. I definitely said it on the pod.
Yeah, we talked about them on the 3rd night of the season. Both of us were kind of impressed with them.
I have to find this pod. I have to find this pod where I called them the best 2-13 team in the country.
Yeah.
You've got. I feel like every night I look up and there's an Ohio Valley game between 2 teams with 10 wins, and that's because there's 6 teams in the Ohio Valley with 10+ conference wins already.
Yeah, well, I mean, Western Illinois is basically a gift of a win. Real quick.
Okay, yeah. There are 5 teams in this league below 300. I mean, this league kind of just is not good, but UT Martin, not a lot to win the league title. They've lost 4 of their last 5 after 11.
You will not slander the Ohio Valley. It may be the inferior valley, but it is still the valley.
No, it's a good league. It's fun to watch.
By the way, on Eastern Washington, the best part of Eastern Washington, making a run and possibly getting to the NCAA tournament, is Isaiah Moses. The second best part is that every single college basketball casual is going to have this flashback from a couple years ago, and everyone's gonna have to relearn the name Dan Monson, who everyone was flipping out about because he was fired already, and they made the NCAA tournament.
Yeah. Speaking of Long Beach State, they have lost 8 in a row after a 4-3 start in conference play, Jonathan. Not good for them.
They lost 3. Did you say they lost 3 in a row after a 4-8 start in conference play?
No, 8 in a row after a 4-3 start.
Oh, okay. That makes a little more sense.
Cal Poly picks up a huge win at Hawaii, 3 in a row. I believe that makes them the first team in the Big West this year to win at Hawaii.
The Big West is also just nuts this year. We were on the show 8 days ago with Rocco talking about how Hawaii had taken, over first place in sole possession of that conference, and here we are a week later, and UC Irvine's got sole possession of first place.
Yeah, the last time Cal Poly went 500 in conference play, 2013, when they went 12-6. They're currently 8-8 with 4 games left.
They're 500 in conference play, and they're still behind. They're the 8th team in the league right now.
I will be at NJIT Vermont tomorrow. NJIT coming off a tough loss to Albany. They lost 81-63 at home. Really makes their chances of hosting the America East tournament start to finish harder. And now they have got to play in their next 3 games, their final 3 games of the regular season. 2 of them are at home against the other 2 top teams in the league in Vermont, who is coming off a loss to UMBC. Vermont lost this game. Vermont's 9-4. And then UMBC to end the season. UMBC has won 5 in a row. They are 10-2 in first place in this conference at the moment.
I didn't realize that all these that the Big West eliminates 3 teams. 3 teams don't make the conference tournament.
Yeah.
By the way,
this is the worst year for America East in ever.
Yeah,
by a lot.
It stinks.
Yeah, there's 2 teams that are.
NJIT got pasted last night.
Yeah, it was bad.
A bad Albany team.
Yeah. Amir Lindsay's heck of a scorer, though.
Mm-hmm.
Sanford and Mercer playing in the SoCon. I think the SoCon's just so interesting right now because of how well Sanford's playing at the moment. They've won 6 in a row. They're up to 9-6, 3 games left in the season. If they can go and beat Mercer, they'll get to 10-6, and their last 2 games of the season are home VMI and home Greensboro, both games that they probably should be able to handle. So they have a chance in this to go in on a big winning streak to the SoCon tournament. But Jaden Booth, obviously, heck of a scorer. Dylan Faulkner can really score it as well. Those 2 guys rock. Mercer was 5-2. They've picked up a few stumbles. They're now 9-6 as well. Their last game of the regular season is home against East Tennessee State, which bounced back with a win over Furman after the loss to Stanford last week. ETSU is in first place at 12-3. Wofford is in second at 10-5.
Mm-hmm.
Wofford plays Furman on Saturday. I believe that if East Tennessee State beats UNC Greensboro, it clinches at least a share of the regular season title. And if East Tennessee State beats UNC Greensboro and Furman beats Wofford, then East Tennessee State clinches the outright regular season title.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah. East Tennessee State's been playing some really good defense of late. Anything else?
I want to talk a little MAC. I'm headed to Fairfield Sacred Heart tonight. The Stags playing up to 8-8 after the 0-4 start. They did just lose at St. Peter's. I'm interested to see this game. Will Mackay Connor play? That's probably the first thing I'm going to try and figure out when I get there. Sacred Heart beat St. Peter's last week, beat Ryder at home. So now up to 8-9. You've got that. You've got Merrimack Siena at Merrimack on ESPNU. That should be a packed house at Lawler. You've got St. Peter's Iona, Canisius Ryder, which is 2 teams that have already been eliminated from MAC tournament contention. Some Ivy housekeeping stuff. Only 1 game in the Ivy League for each team this weekend. Princeton Brown tonight at Brown. Princeton has only won 1 road game all year. If they lose this one, they fall to 4-7. Now, Cornell does play Harvard. Cornell is currently holding that 4th spot at 5-5. Penn is 6-4. Penn plays Yale at Yale. And Penn also still has Harvard on the schedule. So Penn's won 4 in a row. Wonder if they can go out and put a charge into Yale, put a scare into them, maybe even come out with a win. That would be really impressive for McCaffrey. But Yale is clearly still to me the best team in this league. But the Ivy League, like the last year, there were only 3 teams in the top 200 in the Ivy League, and that came after what was to me the best year of the Ivy League at the top 2 years ago. The Ivy League went from really, really top heavy to now being fairly deep, with 5 teams in the top 200 and nobody below 277, and a bunch of teams kind of fighting between 150 and 190 right now. So obviously Yale at 76, but Yale's they've lost 2 games in Ivy League play. Like, they're not unbeatable.
Yeah, and
and they
Harvard took them to overtime last week.
Yeah, Jonathan, anything you want to get into?
I don't think I have anything else. Just looking through, make sure we didn't miss anything. Is Utah Valley still like? Is this like?
I have no idea. I have no idea what the deal is with Utah Valley right now.
Okay. From last night, by the way, good win for UNC Wilmington over a surging Monmouth team. McLean had 27 though.
Yeah,
turned it over 6 times, but Wilmington's good.
I want to make sure I'm not missing anything here with like is there any D2 or D3 stuff that's interesting this weekend?
Yeah.
I'm sure there is. I don't know what.
Go Falcons.
All right, Jonathan, you want to take us home?
Go Falcons. If you came to hear about Tyler Self and where he's working, you came to the right place. If you came to hear about sucking all the joy out of this Miami, Ohio team, you came to the right place. And if you came to hear about the latest happenings with Caleb Grill, you came to the right place. This has been Season 6, Episode 87 of Brackets, Bubbles, and Bit Stealers, and we'll see you next time.